Great. Thank you, Drew. Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming to the session on SIT and studying abroad and researching abroad. My name is Shun Yanagishita, and I am the Senior University Relations Manager for SIT Study Abroad, and I'm covering this info session for my colleague, Blake Hart, who is actually your SIT representative, but he is at another fair today, and so I'm helping Blake along and happy to talk more about SIT opportunities to you all. SIT, I know I keep saying SIT, but SIT stands for the School for International Training. We're actually a graduate institute based in Brattleboro, Vermont, but we run undergraduate study abroad opportunities. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you about what that all means for you and what research means abroad. As I think most of you who've joined us today are interested in perhaps doing some research opportunities abroad, and we feel that SIT is a really good fit for that. And so first off, I just wanted to start off talking a little bit about, why SIT, why is it not your ordinary study abroad program like you saw in my first slide, and just what kinds of things that make us a little bit different than perhaps some of the other study abroad opportunities that you might see around your campus or, hear from your friends and colleagues around campus. So why SIT? All of our programs are very experiential in nature and field-based, meaning that the field is really your classroom rather than being in a four-walled classroom in a building all the time. Really, you're going to be in and out in the field, learning and learning by doing and learning from experts and practitioners who know about the particular topic of what you're studying. Also at SIT, we focus on critical global issues. We have identified 7 at SIT that we feel are really important and burning hot topics that everyone should be knowing and studying about in this century. So I'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit. We're also known for going to more non-traditional destinations. So we go to places such as Mongolia, we go to Rwanda, Tanzania, Iceland, and other places that are a little bit more off the beaten path. We know that a lot of students like to study abroad in Western Europe, but we also, have some programs in Europe as well. They just tend to be a little bit different than some of the usual programs that you might see being offered. And then the fourth bullet here is sort of the reason why I'm here today is to talk more specifically about research opportunities. I know there are a lot of research opportunities for undergraduate students, and so a lot of students who are interested in research tend to choose SIT because of that research opportunity, and I'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. Also, we really believe in, engaging with our local communities and with our, partners and the networks that we have. And so all of our students stay in a homestay family while on our program, except when they're traveling or in other other cities outside of their program base. But homestay is a great opportunity to really immerse yourself. We also offer language. Language is a critical part to SIT programming, where we really want students to feel comfortable interacting with locals, interacting with their homestay families, and for them to really, help you along the way for your research opportunity at the end of the semester. And then, like I mentioned, local networks and connections are endless on an SIT program. You learn from experts, you learn from local, practitioners that know about the particular topic that you're studying. So the opportunities of networking is quite endless on an SIT program. We also, in terms of, the locations, here's just a quick glance of all of the locations where we go to. As you can see, we go to now all 7 continents, as we now have a program in Argentina that goes to Antarctica as a part of the program. Earlier, I mentioned we have 7 critical global issues that we've identified at SIT. So you'll see here the 7 critical global issues that we have identified at SIT, from climate and the environment to peace and justice programs to global health and well-being types of programs. One thing that I always like to mention when talking about these critical global issues is that all of our programs at SIT are very interdisciplinary in nature. And so even if you might be, for example, an environmental student, but perhaps is interested in how the environment or climate change affects one's health or maternal health or something, then perhaps a global health program might also be of an interest to you. So I always tell students to look through every single one of our programs, as every single program has a really unique and specific theme tied to the program, even if it might fall under one or two of these critical global issues. So definitely something to, just to keep your minds out, is that as long as you have the passion, the interest, the curiosities, and the prereqs, then really that's all is what we're looking for at SIT. So kind of digging deeper into sort of the research and like what you can do in terms of SIT programs for that. This slide here is sort of a visual of our immersive SIT semester program. When I say immersive, I mean our programs that go to one country for the semester. And I say that in relation to our other portfolio of programs that goes to multiple countries. And so what I'm discussing right now is our model where you go to one country. There could be one short excursion to an international country outside of that country, but really just staying put in that particular country. So if you're looking at that model, then you're looking at a 15-week semester where there's orientation in the beginning. And then the main chunk of the semester is when you're taking your coursework and going on various excursions. So this is the time when you're taking your thematic seminars. These are the courses that really allow you to learn about the topic of what you're studying, meeting people from all walks of life that work in that field. You're also taking the language class of the local community. And then you also take a field methods and ethics course. And this really allows you to be able to do the research at the end of the semester. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But basically in the field methods and ethics course, this is the time when you're learning about how do I go about conducting research? What do I do? How do I, write a primary question that's doable and in scope in a 4-week span, to what methodologies do I use? Do I do questionnaires? Do I do participant observation? Do I, do surveying or whatever it might be, or interviews? Are they going to be open-ended? Do I need a translator? What kinds of tools that you might need. And so that's the class that really allows you to learn deeply about what it means to conduct research abroad. And then the last 4 weeks or so of the semester is usually when students are out in the field conducting their research, whether it's, scheduling interviews and you're interviewing somebody and transcribing that and finding, similar thoughts that your interviewees have said, and then writing that paper that addresses that research question that you initially proposed. In terms of, getting your research approved too, there is a process for that, similar to how research is done here in the States or on your home campus. There is a sort of a human subjects review board that you might go through, especially if you're working with other people in your research. And so we go through all of that process with you as well. And then at the end, when students all come back together, students are able to talk and present about their research topics. And so it's similar to kind of like a smaller thesis defense. If you go and obtain your graduate degree later down the road, this is a great exercise for that too, that you've done research before and that you've been able to present your research at the end of your time. So I'm not going to read through all of this because I know this is being recorded and you can pause it at any point in time, but I'm just going to go through some of our programs that we have just so you can see the different themes of what we offer in the various countries. So the first one here is our Switzerland program on global health and development policy. The screen shows you a quick glance of all of the courses you would take on this program, and then the sample ISP topics. ISP stands for the Independent Study Project, and this program only offers that as an option for your capstone. And these are some of the previous topics that other students have done on this program. But just to let you know that it's really an open list of topics, as every single student brings in, their own interests and passions and curiosities. So even though this program has a theme of global health and development policy, and at first glance it might look pretty specific, but it's also very broad at the same time and also very interdisciplinary. So really a lot one can do on this program if this topic interests you. The next program, Iceland, climate change and the Arctic. Pretty cool program that a lot of students are interested in these days. For this program, we've the coursework here and the sample ISP topics on the slides. But again, really a whole plethora of topics that one can do, or maybe there's one on here that interests you, but you might want to add a different twist to it, depending on, what your interests and academic background may be. This one I always like to add just because it's a cute penguin, but also the fact that we now go to Antarctica and cover all 7 continents. So this program is based in Argentina, and the theme is called People, Environment, and Climate Change in Patagonia and Antarctica. So even though at first glance this might seem, more sciencey, it also brings in the social science aspect to this topic of climate change. And for this program, you'll see that there's a new category. It says sample internships. So for all of our semester programs, except for the multi-country programs, students have the option of doing an independent study project. And then for the majority of our programs, we also do offer internships. So if research for some reason is not necessarily, the mode of what you want to do for your capstone, then some of our programs do also offer an internship as well. And then this model that I'm going to talk about next is about our multi-country model, which we call IHP. So we have about 6 or so IHP programs that basically go to multiple countries throughout the semester. And so this is just kind of a quick glance of what we do in these multi-country programs. So typically they have a launch where they first start off in the United States to learn about that particular topic, and they go to 3 different countries throughout the rest of the semester. This model has been slightly altered due to the pandemic. As you can imagine, the challenges of moving from country to country have been a little bit challenging. And so the format can slightly change for spring. But in general, this is the model that we do, is that students have sort of a comparative aspect or comparative experience on IHP programs to learn about the theme across various countries. And so an example of this program is our IHP Food Systems program, Agriculture, Sustainability, and Justice. This program has been going in the past to Ecuador, Malawi, and Italy to learn about these topics. But again, just as an FYI, that some of the itinerary program countries may slightly change depending on how the pandemic is doing in those countries. But in general, it is a sort of a comparative experience. And I would say for these IHP programs, there is also a research component tied to them. They just might be a little bit on a smaller scale, and or perhaps in a team environment or in a group environment. And so if you're interested in more in conducting research solely on your own, where you come up with your primary question and your methodologies and your findings and sharings, if you have a certain way, then perhaps perhaps our single country immersive programs might be better. But if you're interested in some of these topics with IHP, you can always let us know and ask if there is a possibility for you to do independent study, or maybe it's just with another person. And so we're always happy to help you figure those kinds of questions out as well. So for this program, the coursework, there's 4 courses, 16 credits like our other semester programs. Because IHP is a little bit different, we wanted to show just quick glance about what a day in the life of an IHP student would be. So just as a fun FYI for you. We also have programs in the summer. If summer is what you're interested in terms of the independent study project, those are typically offered more in the semester. But if you are interested in doing a smaller field-based project, then some of our summer programs do offer that. I would say not all of them offer it, but some of the ones that are more STEM-based or sort of science-based tend to have a smaller component that's called the field project. So it's not a full-blown independent study project where you have 4 weeks to write a robust paper, like 20 to 30 or 40 pages, but sort of on a smaller scale that you might be paired up with somebody else. And so this is a great example where, if you're wanting to do a smaller project, but you're only able to study abroad in the summer, then this program, Nepal Geoscience in the Himalaya, if this theme interests you, might be an interesting program for you. So as you can see on this next slide, I've talked a little bit about the field study project. And so there's other components to the program. The first two programs are more thematic courses. And then that third one, Geology Field Study Project, is the one I was referring to if you're interested in conducting a research project at the end. Then sort of switching gears, I know this is supposed to be focused on research, but we also offer virtual internships or virtual language courses. If any of this interests you all, feel free to let us know. And some of the sort of, highlights I would say in terms of research and fieldwork and studying abroad is that there's a lot of pluses to conducting research abroad. For example, a lot of our students who do SIT, who do the research component, are oftentimes able to utilize their research and their paper for senior theses, or perhaps you belong to the honors college. And so maybe you have an honors college thesis requirement that you can perhaps utilize your SIT research or use that as a stepping stone for your senior thesis back home, or vice versa. Also at SIT, with our alumni population, we tend to see a lot of our alumni go on to other types of educational opportunities after they've studied abroad with us, from med school to getting an MPA, MBA, other kinds of graduate opportunities. And so it's really exciting to see that because of their SIT experience, it's sort of propelled them to continue their education. And a lot of the students say, if it wasn't for SIT and the research, I wouldn't be able to get into graduate school, because they had to show that they've done research before, and not just a small, 3 to 5 page paper, but really a robust research kind of opportunity. We also have other opportunities at SIT. Sometimes we'll hold research symposia or other opportunities for travel grants for a particular type of conference. And so our students have even published papers as well in terms of, what they did for their ISP. So that's always really exciting to see that students, who've discovered or helped to discover a new species of a frog in Ecuador, to other kinds of prestigious research. And so that's always welcomed, and something that we always like to showcase to our audience as well. And then the last bullet here is on SIT digital collections. For a graduate institute, we have a library. And so every semester we post some of the top papers from our programs on there for other students to utilize as a part of their research, or for anybody else in this world who's interested in that particular topic. Those come up in the searches. And so that's also another opportunity where our students can publish their papers and research. And then I know we only have a couple more minutes here, but just a quick comment here is that, CSU has their own deadlines and application processes, but also know that SIT does as well. So CSU deadlines take precedence over SIT deadlines. But the one thing to just keep in mind with SIT is that we do operate on a rolling admission. So the sooner you apply, the better chances of getting admitted into the program, as long as it's the right fit for you, and that as long as you, fulfill all the prereqs and the deadlines and whatnot. So again, just earlier, the better kind of a concept. So if any of you here are interested in going fall of 2022, next fall, then our applications open December 15th of this year, and they officially close on May 15th of next year. And one more thing I would just add to this slide is that some of our programs do fill fast on the fill on the earlier side. And so even though we've said May 15th as the close application deadline, it may move up earlier depending on if that program has reached its capacity. And then just a comment, some of our programs, due to sort of complicated visas, do have an earlier close date. So keep in mind if any of those programs interest you. And then lastly, we know that finances is always a really big question for students, but know that SIT offers a lot of scholarships every year. All of our scholarships are financial need-based, and so if any of you here have any kind of need, whether they're loans or loans and grants or whatever else it may be, definitely apply to our scholarships. And what's great about SIT scholarships is that there's no separate application. It's all embedded into the SIT program application. We also even have a CSU SIT affiliate scholarship that is administered through the Education Abroad office. And so definitely talk to the advisors at CSU to learn a little bit more about that process if you are interested in the sort of special CSU SIT scholarship. And then one I like to always highlight is that if any of you here have the Pell Grant, we do an automatic Pell Grant match. And so if you have that, that's great. But then also just to focus the Pell Grant recipients on applying for the Gilman International Scholarship. It's just for Pell Grant recipients. And so on the right-hand side at the very bottom, I've listed some of the other scholarships that might be good that are administered nationally and federally. So nothing on our end at SIT nor CSU, but it's a federally funded scholarship. And so some of those listed here, like the Gilman, is for those who receive the Pell Grant. And for the Freeman Asia, it can work with our East and Southeast Asia programs. And then for those of you interested in working for the federal government or learning critical languages, we also have a lot of opportunities with that. So it's a great fit. SITs can be a great fit for those scholarships as well. In terms of next steps, quickly, obviously talking to people in your life that are important, like your family or whoever you talk to about finances, but also talking to your study abroad advisor, talking to your financial aid counselor, and also talking to your major, minor, certificate advisors in your various departments is really important, just to find the best time for you to study abroad, when is ideal, so you can prepare and not be stressed, and apply by the appropriate deadlines and whatnot. And then last but not least, my contact who works with our schools in Colorado could not be here today, and so I have filled in for Blake, but his contact information is on this slide, Blake Hart. His email address is blake.hart@sit.edu. But I am happy to answer any questions that any of you might have, and would be happy to stay on until all questions are answered.
Thank you, Sean. Right now, we don't have any questions in the Q&A box.
Okay.
Give it maybe one more minute, and then we might have to jump off for the next session to get in the queue.
Definitely, definitely. And also for whoever is watching, there is a virtual inquiry card link. So if any of you are interested in connecting with SIT and getting your $50 application fee waived, feel free to sign up on that link. And I think that is in the chat box.
Actually, we're going to be sending it out for anyone who registered for this session. They're going to get an email later this afternoon with that link.
Wonderful. Thank you, Drew.
You got it. I don't see any other questions coming in right now. So I think we're good to wrap it up.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Drew, CSU, for hosting me today and SIT. And we look forward to, hearing if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts or, need advice, feel free to let me or my colleague Blake Hart know. And I wish you the best of luck this fall. Take care.
Thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you, Drew. Bye-bye.